So I'm here before I maximize this. I'm going to go back to, we'll look at this here. I'll make this a little bit. And I'm going to, with outside of the virtual machine, do not have to do if we were to design it, but I'm just going to show you. I'm going to show you how to make some, particularly how to make a for the Activist gave you get there these, and then I an XML file. Do this. We could do into. Before I do that, though, I'll show you a couple of things in there. So, see what other things I have in there. I said do a little query. This table. I'll have that table for now. Some maintenance detail. Something we did at the very beginning of class. People did it, lost it because of crashes. If you don't have it, we could make it, I suppose. Anyone not have it? So let's go into, as I said, I'm going to leave that there for a moment, but I will do a little bit with Community Assist because it has some XML in it, and I can show you kind of what it looks like and talk a little bit about it, and then we'll do this, and I need the and customize and bring up. I can't believe I never pinned that to the yeah. So the other thing I did this weekend was download Visual Studio 2017 and SQL Server, the new one, which is still, I think the SQL Server is still not full version yet, but the Visual Studio is. It's actually pretty neat. It seems to work fine. They don't have Python in it right now. They promise they will have, but it wasn't ready for the release. They do in the earlier version. Anyway, let's look at databases and Community Assist and tables. And there is a place, I think it's in the review. If it's not there, no, I do not have it there. So maybe I don't have it in here. Oh, grant review comment, which we dealt with. So one of the things I wanted to show you is notice that the type of field is XML. Right? Let me see if I've got any now a can be used type SQL Server. So I'm going to do just if I so grant flip. And I'm still in master. So hopefully I put a little tiny bit of data in here, and I did. So at the end of this, there's the review note. And I'm going to just click on that, and it'll show you kind of what the XML for that looks like. So how many of you have worked with XML at all? Do you have a little bit? Yeah, it is everywhere. For what it's worth, XML is just basically underlies half of what goes on in the web, maybe more.
The PHP class I'm taking uses XML.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that it's generally auto-generated, by computers and consumed by computers, so you a lot of times don't see the XML. So, but when you're developing, sometimes you need to be the person that tells it what to generate, right, how to fix it. So XML is really just, the principle is a lot like HTML. It is a tag language, right? It's actually based on SGML. Anybody know what that is? Standard General Markup Language, which was developed by the federal government in the 80s as a way of marking up documents so that they could be digitalized. It's really complicated. They tried to create markups for every, I mean, think of a government document. They had to figure out how to do footnotes, how to do raised, characters, how to do just every kind of formatting thing you can do. So it's intensely complicated. Some people say that nobody has ever figured out how to use all of it. But there are some, it spun off a couple of simpler children. HTML is one of them. HTML is a child of SGML, and so is XML. Now, one of the differences is that HTML has a preset vocabulary. So, so it has terms. HTML, head, body, paragraph, it has all those are predefined. XML is open, you can make up your own, right? Once you've made them up, you probably will be consistent and, basically create a language on that. So there are some it's like 10 rules. The thing that drove me crazy about XML originally, because I'm used to learning languages where you have like a core set of commands. So you have like, I think C# has like 25 or 30 core commands. And then it has things that mean things in context. Right? There were no commands here. There was nothing. There's just these 10 rules. Everything has to have an opening and closing. Okay, there has to be a root tag. Just like HTML is the root tag in HTML. Every opening tag has to have a closing tag. All right, that's a general rule. Things have to be, if you're embedding things, you can't screw that up. You know what I mean? If you nest things, they have to close inside of their nesting element. HTML, weirdly, HTML, the browsers have evolved to where you can write the most garbage HTML imaginable and they'll interpret it, but this is strict. One of the things about XML that's different than HTML is that it's strict. It's case sensitive, which is different than true HTML. There is XHTML, which is XML HTML. So it is case sensitive. What other rules? There's certain characters you can't use. Right? That's the other probably the main rule. One of the things that they evolved, this is actually a Sanskrit specification, is a thing called a namespace. So namespaces can make your life difficult, but they also help you. How would you define a namespace? You've probably encountered it in programming too. They serve two functions.
You can use the same name for something as long as it's in different namespaces.
Right. So one of the things that it does, and I love this word, in the sense that there's nothing that would keep me from using comment in a different XML document, right? I might have something that resembles something in HTML. Like if I need paragraphs in here, I could do P's if I wanted to. But it's not the HTML P, it's a P that belongs to this. You that makes sense. You bring them all together. Real important with objects to begin state. What if one of these in terms of the XML thing and then a colon comment, right? You don't have to see it, but that's what it's doing underneath. This whole thing is in front of each of these terms, and so it keeps it as distinct from any other use of that. Yeah.
And like a pseudo class relationship.
It is kind of.
Sounds like.
The other thing that namespaces are good for, and this is true in programming, see, it actually functions the same as a namespace in C#. It does two things. It groups things together that belong together, right? So it's a grouping thing where it tells all these things are related to the same topic, and it also separates it from things that don't belong to it, right? So it keeps it distinct. This is all extra. You don't need any of this to do the assignment, but I just wanted to give you a little bit of XML background. This namespace looks like a URL, but it doesn't have to, and usually doesn't point to anything that actually exists. They use it as they put it as a URL because it was a way of getting your company name into the namespace, right? And then usually the end of it is just, this is what this is, it's review notes. There was a movement, I don't know if it's still going, to try to put like at least an informational document at this spot. That generally just meant to be, just a way of distinguishing these from other things. So this is a very common namespace. In terms of the XML rules, you could use GUID. You could use anything up here as for your namespace, but this is, you'll see this convention most of the time. Okay, so that's XML. Questions about that? The other thing is that there are about 30 parts to the XML. So this is straight XML. There's also the other part we're going to deal with is XML schema, which is XSD, and schema, as I said, is a really overused word. But an XML schema is an XML document that describes another document, and it describes it in terms of what fields it has or what tags it has, the order of those tags. It tells you and what kind of values can be in those tags. And then there's a whole bunch of other things you can do with XML. As I said, we could spend easily a quarter on XML, and we could also spend a quarter on just what SQL Server does with XML. So one other thing I'll say, and then we'll get down to actually doing the assignment, is why would SQL Server or any database be interested in XML? Anybody
Some people are saving data now.
One is that there's a lot of data that's saved as XML. For instance, I say XML is everywhere. The file format for Office, the file format for OpenOffice, the file format for every form of document out there is XML. In fact, they all agreed on the format. So that's why you can take a doc in Google Docs or a Google Doc in Docs, and everything is XML underneath. You could store documents, and you could store them as XML, or you could just store them as docs, right? It's hard to actually get to the XML in those documents. You can, but it's hard. Another reason, yeah.
You can make up your own tags. How is it the browser is able to use it?
The browser can't. The browser can't read XML.
So, like someone like Word has its own schema, and it just uses that.
Right. So Word has a schema. In fact, there's a OpenOffice doc schema. All of the offices, all the kind of Office suite. Now they can add stuff to it, right? But yeah, schema that they do. What browser can't read this? What you have to write code that does something with this, right? You have to parse it. So you could take say, well, you could, an RS feed is already XML. You could do a fields from a form, I'm thinking in HTML. You could organize them into the tag, really easy thing to do. And then you could ship it off to a database. One of the second document storage, and that everything is stored as XML. literally everything. Graphics, a lot of them have XML definition. There's a lot of stuff. This is also how databases, how data is often transferred between databases as XML. Now, it was for a while, that was the only way, but now JSON is in there. And JSON's a little bit like an XML. I'll show you when we do the schema. I mean, the schema tells you what types are. The whole information when you pass it in a JSON, those generally, but it's also bigger. It takes more parsing. Reason why XML came about, anybody remember the good old days when, so if you wanted to do business with it in the past, you together and you had to say, I mean over the internet, you had to say, okay, we have a server, you need to have SQL Server, right? We have this software, this software. Basically you had to match your, because if you're going to share voices, and you had to have the same processing software. But that was a pain, right? Because companies don't want to always have the same software. And also the things that were passed were binary, right? So in a way that's more secure, another way means it's wrong, there's no bucket. Not in a way. So one of the things that happened is that they started passing it as XML. And then it doesn't matter because XML is just text, because it's structured text. You can program it really easily. And it doesn't matter what, if they could be running Oracle and you could be running SQL Server, or they could be running MySQL and you could be running Oracle. It doesn't matter, right? Because the data is structured as text. You need to parse it into your database. Or, at least in server, you could store the XML straight if you want. You can also, there's a thing called XML, an XSLT, we're not going to do it, but it's a styling language for XML. And what it does is it takes, you can transform an XML document into an HTML document, right? So the XSL goes through and says, treat this as a P. Treat this, I mean, basically what it does is it maps this to an HTML command. You can also map it to PDF if you want, or you can map it to Word. One of the advantages of an XML document is that you can have this raw XML document and you can output it in any of a dozen different ways without having to make any changes to the root document. And you can also query it, which we'll look at a little bit. You can extract parts of it. It's fairly easy to iterate through the tree and pull out parts of it. So it's actually a really flexible and powerful, and as I said, it is everywhere. It's mostly computers talking to computers, but it's there. Okay, so let's go to use all. And I'm going to just do, I don't know that I made the database, the tables that I told you to make. So let me look at my Metro Alt. So I don't think I have, I'm just going to do, you don't have to do this if it exists. Create, it was maintenance. Well, we need maintenance and probably maintenance and maintenance detail, right? Maintenance. How do you spell maintenance?
M-A-I-N-T-N-A-N-C.
Oh, so that's correct. Create maintenance. Yeah, you should have. I know why it's underlined.
Did you say maintenance detail?
I'm going to make it too. This is going to be maintenance. You guys should have made this. This was your very first assignment, which I stupidly didn't do in here. Do you guys remember what the fields were? It doesn't, yeah.
Separate between
Maintenance first. So maintenance ID,
Maintenance key.
maintenance key.
maintenance
Maintenance
date.
date.
And then
Plus
This part you shouldn't have to do, but so, and then it was maintenance date and just date.
Yep, date, not no.
Yeah, probably should be not null. I don't
And the
care
first
a
one is
whole
also
lot.
not null, yeah.
Well, if it's a primary key.
Yeah.
It's, and then the last one was bus key.
Yep.
And that was an int, and it's a foreign key. Can't type. Oh, I need to give it a name, don't I? No, I don't. Font references, if I could spell. Bus.
So you said that if we already have this.
You don't have to do this. I just need a field. The assignment is to put an XML, and I need to use a Metro Alt first. Is to put an XML into the maintenance detail. So mine, I don't think I'm going to do the maintenance type. I'll put a number in there, but I'm not going to, just for speed, I don't think I'm going to do. So I'm going to do create table maintenance detail. All right, so fields for that as they exist right now.
Maintenance detail.
Right. Identity one primary key, prime maintenance key. Maintenance is a really hard word to spell.
You did it right.
I just think the main head dance. That's the only way I can ever get through it. It's so good.
Did I spell that one?
Yeah.
Wonder why it's not happy there. Invalid column. Oh, references. Maintenance key. That should be right. Oh, I spelled it wrong.
Yeah.
I was going to see you there.
Yeah, I spelled it wrong. I did it again. Probably what you're.
Service key.
Yeah, service key. Right?
Bus service key.
Bus service key. I'm just going to leave that as an int. I'm not going to make it a foreign key because I didn't make that table. And I think that's it, right?
No, there's the maintenance detail, our maintenance notes
Which is a
of our 254.
okay. So we're going to drop that, but I'll put it in maintenance notes in varchar 255. All right, so I'm going to make that table. We're going to modify it in a moment. But first I'm going to do, and this I'm going to go out of the virtual machine for. I'm going to make the, now you wouldn't have to do this for the assignment because the XML is in the assignment. But I want to show you a little bit of how you can make some of this. So I am going to, and if you want to use the XML that's in the assignment, you can. But I'm going to make a little bit different. I'm going out of the virtual machine and I'm going to load Visual Studio. Part of the reason is Visual Studio isn't in the virtual. And I just want to show you a little bit about this. So we're going to replace maintenance notes. We need to create a structure for it. And again, there's a structure in the assignment, but this we're going to just sort of freeform it, so it may not be. Come on, Visual Studio. You can do it. Visual Studio is a really good XML editor, but there are actually a lot of them out there. Visual Studio may be one of the most expensive, although you get the I'll probably just zoom this. So generally, I've been avoiding the magnify, but I'm going to do a magnify here. All right. So what I'm going to do is File, New, File. I'm not going to do a new project or anything. I'm just going to do a new file. And again, this is the XML that you can. This is files are different files. 3 in particular are XML. There's an XML file, XML schema, and XML. This file. And I think it. So. And I suspect because I'm zooming, I'm not seeing it. There it is. All right. So this is the beginning. This is not required, but it's actually a really good idea. This is basically an information that says this is XML. The version is 1.0. And the encoding is UTF-8, which is Unicode. That's the normal route. There actually is a 2.0 of XML, but the only thing it applies to is IBM. IBM needed to use some characters that weren't allowed in the standard setup. And so they modified it. And so XML 2.0 means that it is an IBM one. So we can actually mostly ignore it. So the trick is, what do you want? So this is going to be for maintenance notes, right? So we could do, what do we want as our root element? Just maintenance notes or just notes?
Comments.
So the hardest part of this, and this is actually a part that companies get together for, is figuring out the structure. It's wide open, but you want a meaningful structure, and then you're going to want to share that structure. So typically people, and they typically don't write the XML, although they might look at that a few times to figure out what they want. They typically write the schema, which I'm going to show you in a second. So do we want just notes, maintenance notes, comments, whatever? We could do maintenance notes. It means I have to spell maintenance again, though.
And is everything lowercase?
It's case sensitive. So whatever your convention, it's good to keep that convention. So typically I do lower space. You can camel it if you want. It's not uncommon to camel case it. XHTML, everything is lowercase. They just made it that way. It's not XML rule. It's a XHTML rule. In an XML rule, you can have whatever case you want, but you have to be consistent. So when I do this, it will give me the closing tag. I'm also going to put a namespace on this, just because I think it's a good idea. And the way you do that is you do XMLNS, XML namespace, equals, and notice that there are all sorts of pre-built namespaces, but we don't want those. Those belong to other structures. So we're going to make our own HTTP www metroalt.com, and this one is going to be maintenance notes, so I'll do maintenance it's okay. And again, this literally will be, when you look at it, like when you get an error on this, it will say http www.metroalt.com/maintenance notes:maintenance notes. So inside of this, we already have the date, so don't really need the date in here. I don't want super, but a little tiny bit of stuff in it just to make it more interesting. For what so you might do, well, that there should be in that service type, right? But you might do something like, so let's do a comment. Or maybe let's make it a little more interesting. Let's do comments. And then inside of this, do comment. And you could put something in here if you wanted, like you know, just some kind of comment. Now, the fact that we're doing this, because I'm going to cheat on the schema. I'm going to do comment here. And what else do we want to say about it? I have no idea, not being a mechanic.
This is the same, maybe checklist before,
We might do.
These are all the problems.
Yeah, these are like the notes that you would make on it. The tires are. Yeah, that might be easier. I was going to say house shot. All right, one reason I did this is that when I make the schema, because I'm just going to auto-generate the schema, I wanted to know that there can be more than one comment. So that's what I did. And you could have left these empty, but it's good to put. Let's do one other piece of this after comment. I'm going to do another group thing. I'm going to say actions, and then I'm just going to, inside of that, do action. And the action could be like a schedule brake replacement. I'm making this up. This is different than what was in the tire. Okay, something like that. Just, you know, whatever kind of garbage you want there. And again, the thing is that if you were really doing this, this would take some thought. You need to work with people. What kind of structure do you want, and why are you structuring it this way, other than just to show XML? You know. Is my main is going to be really simple. One of the things that you can do, which is kind of nice, first of all, save it, and I'm going to name it as, not that I think it matters, but I'm going to maintenance note .xml. I'm not sure if I need to save it, actually. So then under XML, the menu level here, notice it has create schema. And I am going to just click that. And it creates a schema for me. Now again, if you were a company, I use an initial template, but I would probably do this by hand. So a schema is a document that describes another document. So it talks about the element name is maintenance notes. It's complex. It's not that important that you understand all of this, but it's complex because it contains other elements. It's simple if it only contains data. It's complex if it contains other elements. Does that make sense? So this is complex. It's a sequence. Sequence is closed down here, meaning they have to occur in this order. There are other options, right? You can say that it can be in any order. You can say that it can be there or not be there, you know, but sequence means that it's required and it's in this order. The number of times that it can occur, this is for comments, is unbounded. That's, we put 2 of them in there. So if I'd only put 1 in there, I would have probably said 1. But unbounded means it can be there as many times as you want. And again, you could put a max or min in there if you preferred. There's lots of things you could do. The type is string. One of the advantages of these is that you can change the data type. You can convey the data type. We're not going to do this, but I just want you to know, like when you're doing, some of you, you've done services, right? In the 172, it passes XML. It passes an XML schema. This schema can be turned into a C# class. It's called serialization. You can turn a C# class into an XML document, and you can turn an XML document into a C# class. And it happens, because of Visual Studio, it happens transparently, but you can also do it manually if you really wanted to. So when you pass the service definition, it's passed as an XML document, and then it's turned into a class. All right, so what we want from this is I am going to copy this whole schema. And again, there is a schema in the thing. It's different, but it's the same principle. I'm going to go back to, actually, let me undo this and go back to the virtual machine. Maybe just mouse, where are you? There you are. So I am going to do something called, I'm going to create an XML schema. So create XML schema. What is the name for it? What? No, there's a collection. And then I will do, let's call it, so maintenance notes, and I'm going to call it schema. Okay, as, and I'm going to put a single quote after the as. I'm going to paste my schema, and then I'm going to close the quote at the end. Now, just in terms of practicality, there are ways to bring this in if you'd saved it as a file. You don't have to cut and paste it in there. You can load it as a file. Basically, you can create a variable for the schema equals the file path, and then you can put the variable in it. But it has the same effect. So we have here, we're going to create a schema collection called maintenance node schema as, and then this definition of a schema with the folks. So I'm going to highlight all of that to run it. So mine succeeded successfully. Now, if there's any errors in your XML, you'll get all sorts of errors. Right? What is your error? The quote needs to come down.
Okay. You need to do that in the line.
Put it in front of you. One of the things about XML definitely has to be the very first one. And spaces. Yeah, so it's really important that the quote be here and this be the very first line. If you put the quote up here, if there's a space break there, it'll fail. This definition has to be the very first line of the document. So let me show you where this is now. I'm going to come up for a moment. So if I go over here into Metro Alt, I'm going to close the tables for a moment. And I go down to, so Metro Alt, that's Community Assist. I need to go find Metro Alt. There it is. So it's under Programmability, and it's under Types. And under Types, you'll see that there are XML schema collections, and now we have maintenance node schema. So what you're kind of doing with this, I don't know if it makes sense to you. If you think about the fact that this is describing a document, the fact that it can be converted into a class, it's being treated as a new type, right? A new type of object inside it. It's kind of like a int or a string, but more complicated. So you've added a type to the database. All right. So I want to modify maintenance detail up there. And this one you will probably want to do once you've created the schema collection. Then what I want to do is I want to alter maintenance detail, and it's alter table.
Sorry.
And you want to drop column the maintenance notes. Maintenance notes. So I'm going to drop that column. If you had data in this, you might want to save that. Did I misspell it? Maintenance.
You remember that's the one that you misspelled, so you misspelled it on the next thing.
Well, I don't know if this was the
I got
one.
an error too. Oh, must be there. That's what it said.
Did I spell maintenance detail wrong? I don't think so.
Oh,
Yeah, maintenance detail is like MENTAI.
That one worked. I cut and copied
I
it.
misspelled it too.
Yeah, I need to think of a different word than maintenance.
Okay, that works.
All right, so once I've dropped the column, what I want to do is I want to add it back in as an XML column. So I'm going to alter table maintenance detail, add column. Actually, you don't add a column, you just add maintenance maintenance notes.
Schema?
So what you want to do is XML. So I think it's just XML. And then in parentheses, what did we call it? Maintenance notes schema. All right. Did I spell that right? I don't trust my spelling. I think I did spell it right, but okay. So what that does, if it succeeds, I've changed the type of the field to an XML data type rather than text, rather than character. And I've bound it to that schema. What that means is that my notes have to match that structure, and if they don't, it will reject it.
This be a form of validation.
Yes, it's a validation, and it's what it's validating is the structure. So all of the notes have to follow the structure that we defined in our schema, right? And that's easier, particularly if you're a programmer, knowing that the XML in here is all of the same structure makes it really easy to program against. Whereas if you didn't validate it, then there's nothing to keep it from being whatever structure, which could be, you can work through, but it's not really as effective when you know ahead of time what this is going to be. I'm going to do an insert into now, and we might do it. And I'm just going to bring the fields over. All right, so I need to refresh my tables. And I'll get rid of the key. Oops, I just killed the M. Oh, you know what? I'm going to have to insert into maintenance first. Before I do this, let's do because maintenance is a foreign key here, it needs to be there. And I need to get rid of the maintenance key because that's an auto number. So I'm going to do values get date and bus key 1. Or do you guys want a different bus? Doesn't matter a whole lot. Okay. All right, so I'm going to insert into, and I'll do the values. And the maintenance key I'll do as ident_current. Maintenance.
Did you run that already? That first one?
No. You could if you want. Employee key. I don't remember who's a mechanic.
69.
Okay, we could do 69. Bus service key is just a fake at this time because I didn't do that table. And then in the maintenance notes, what I'm going to do, again, I'm going to go out of my virtual, get the Visual Studio, and I want not the schema, but the actual notes that we wrote. So I'm going to copy that, go back to here, and again, you could copy this from, So I'm going to put a single quote there and a single quote there, and then close the parentheses. And again, you could load this from into a variable and then load the file. Did I spell it wrong? I drug that in, right? I think it's just hasn't updated the IntelliSense. Which yeah, so we pasted it in, and there's a quote here and a quote here at the end of the document. And again, it's probably easier if you do it as a variable and load it, but I can't load it from out of the virtual. It should, when we load this, so I have to do,
Is there anything else at the end besides the single quote?
and then a paren, close the paren. So I'm going to do both the insert into maintenance and this one. It should give me 2 rows are affected. It did.
And you run the
I ran the
both
first,
inserts,
I
right?
ran both inserts. What is your error?
I can't
Oh,
understand
I
no
got errors
into the
too.
file maintenance key, and I dragged that.
So you load it, if you copy.
Oh, did we get rid of something?
Well, you need to like run these two together.
I did remember that.
So it should have made it.
Did we get rid of that key?
I think I did.
Oh.
I'm not sure if there's a, at the very end. So, declaration not the element. So when we did this schema,
It's right there.
so it didn't give an error, and did you run the whole thing?
Yeah, no.
They won't let me do it again. Going to try this to make it an error.
It's supposed to be.
Oh, maybe I didn't run that.
Validation error. Declaration not done or schema. Oh, don't copy the schema into the insert.
Oh, that's not the schema, that's the name of it.
Well, no, that's
Oh,
fine.
okay.
I mean, this is the wrong insert.
Oh, okay. Oh, I see. I'm sorry.
Let's see. I just.
We need the other one.
This one.
Yes.
Let me see if I can.
So let's do, I'm going to try to do another insert. Change a little bit. So let me change this comments to a capital C. All right. So I'm just changing that to a comment, capital C. I just want to show you that it will fail because it no longer matches the schema. So this would also be for 1, which is probably, but it's going to fail anyway. So it says XML validation, invalid contact, expected element, and notice it gives you the whole path, and it says comments with a lowercase c. Found element, and it gives you the whole prefix, and then it has comments. So it was expecting comments with a lowercase c, and instead it found capital 1. So it will give you, it validates against, it forces you to do it exactly the right way. So I'm going to enter a couple of these, I think. So we're doing get date, but let's do a different bus. And let's change the comments a little. I have no idea. I just want to do a couple of those so we can do a query of them. Anybody have any kind of comment you'd want to make in there?
Headlight out.
Okay, that's a good one. Although they'd probably fix that, but that's okay. Headlight out. It's actually, I think it will be fine to just do one comment. So let's just do headlight out for this one. For action, let's just do one. Let's just say replaced headlight. And let's get rid of the other action. I'm pretty sure that'll go in just fine. So I need to insert maintenance again.
You need to change, oh, never mind. Let's see.
So what I did, I changed this to bus 2. Same mechanic, but bus 2 again, or to service key 2, whatever that is. And then I've changed the comments. I've got rid of one comment, got rid of one action, said headlight out. I'm pretty sure that'll work just fine if I can get both of these into the, both inserts without, okay. See, that's it. It said the number is unbounded, but it will allow as few as one. I think it would give an error if there were none.
Okay, or if it was sent to one, it would give it one.
Yes. So let's do one more because we don't need a lot to query, but we need a little bit. So let's do bus 3. We'll leave it as 2. Bus stinks. What? About what? Oh, yeah. I remember an evening on the bus where some woman was drinking behind me. She had a bottle and then she threw up on the floor.
Yeah.
So recently you changed the bus service. Oh, right, the bus service.
Yeah. So it's a different bus, same service, but what else do we need? So action.
Are you keeping up with this?
All right. So I'm going to do both of these again, and that'll give us 3 records. It's almost enough to query. So if I do a quick select star from maintenance detail, you'll see like a because when it will exit. So the last thing I want to do on this is a little bit of xquery, which hopefully I can remember how to do.
You were trying to access that through like a program like C# with like data entities. What would it return? Would it just do the hyperlink?
No, it would return that. It would return an XML object. So I've done this before, actually, I pulled them out. So you do a SQL query for this field, right, which is an XML field, and you have to have an XML structure to receive it, basically. So you can create an XML document in C#, and then you can basically assign this to that XML document.
And then parse it out.
Yeah.
Is there any way that the C# can request the schema from the database?
Yes, it can.
Okay. And then you can use that
Yeah.
and try to match this data.
Right. In fact, you could do. You might pull up the schema first, and in fact, a lot of times if you don't pull up the schema, it complains a little bit. Though not everything, you don't have to put a schema in, but typically they do, because it gives you the structure. If you, with an XML document in C#, if you load the schema, it's already pre-prepared to take in the document. Also, you can convert, this is the other part I haven't done. So we haven't done XQuery, but I haven't shown you, before we do XQuery, I'll show you another thing. Let's just take some regular data. This is something I always do and I forgot about it. I guess we could do it here. These are big tables, so I don't know. Let's do select star from person. Actually, let's do select. There's 500 people. Let's do top 10. And then I need to list the columns, right? If I do that. And it would be from employee. Let's just do last name. And it's employee last name. Not doing good about typing. And we'll do employee first name. And we'll do employee email. What does it not like about employee last name? Nothing, it's fine. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to say for XML raw. Okay, I'm going to show you some different ways to pull up XML. All right. And then we'll do the XQuery at the end. But I'll do, real quickly, I'll run that. So with raw, it does every field as an attribute. So XML I didn't really mention, but XML has elements and it has attributes, just like HTML. So it does field name equals Kenner, field name equals Suzanne, field name equals, it does it as an attribute. And the reason why you have a little red line here, anybody know? There's no root. It's a fragment. It's not a full XML document because you don't have a root element. This is actually fine if you're loading it into an existing document, right? Because it'll have its own root, and it might be better not to have a root here because you could just plug this in. And attributes are about as easy to handle as elements, actually, in terms of getting things out. Yeah.
When you published or when you clicked, and you have the lowest number, but I don't have the lowest number. You clicked the.
Let's see.
Yeah, I got
Right there.
I think it's just, do you have row numbers in general?
Yes.
I don't know why it's numbering rows.
Mine did something different. I'm gonna this instead.
Right, click that.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Steve, when we're done, can you post this into your blog?
Sure, and I also, it's being videotaped, but I will post it into the blog.
Thank you.
So let's make some more changes to this. That's raw. Now, one of the things I can do, I'm going to actually just copy this. I'm going to make a couple of modifications. And one of the things I'll do is I'll do comma elements. All right. What that will do is it will let me see it not as attributes, but as elements. It's still a fragment, but instead of doing it as attributes, it's put all the values in elements. I prefer this view. In terms of programming, either one is about the same. They're both easy to access.
I'm sorry, I missed it.
So when you go back, I added comma elements. I'm going to do one more. I'm going to do a root, and I'm going to give the root being, what do I want to call it? I guess employees. And what that'll do when I add the attribute root is that now it won't be a fragment anymore. It'll be a complete XML document. And you have to specify what the root will be. So I execute that. And now we have employees. And at the very bottom, we'll close that. So I've added the root. The last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change the row so that it doesn't just say row. And that's actually about as far as you can go with raw. So I can, under where it says raw, I'm going to just do employee. And the effect of that will be, instead of row, it now says an employee. So we have employees as a root, and then each set is an employee. So it's that easy to output a table as XML. It's a little harder to take XML and put it into the table. That's a process called shredding, and I'm not going to do that right now. But so this is basically everything you can do with XML raw. I gave it an element container. I gave it a root. I told it to do elements. There are actually 3 to do this. There's raw, there's auto, and there's what is explicit. And I'm not going to do explicit today, but I will do auto. Explicit, what happens in explicit, the one I'm not going to show you, is that you map every field to an element manually. Right? That's why it's explicit. You say that this field is going to go to this element. So you basically have to do, you structure the document in the query. So it's the most complicated one. You can also, I'm going to do this a little bit. So I'm going to do select, and I'm doing top 10 because there's so much data in these that 10 is enough. Top 10, I'm going to do employee, last name. I'm going to do these same 3. I guess, but I'm also going to add position name and position. So what do we want? The pay rate, hourly. It's employee hourly pay rate. All right. So from employee, and I'm not going to alias this because the way that it outputs, it's better if it doesn't. So I'm going to say out inner join employee position on employee dot employee key equals employee position dot employee key inner join employee, or actually this one just position. On position dot position key equals employee position dot position key. Okay, so I have a join here. One of the things that auto allows you, I'm going to say for XML auto, and I'm actually going to do elements here also. And we could also do root if you want. Root okay. Auto allows for deeper embedding. If you notice on the other one, is that the one? I'm just looking. That's the last one. This is as deep as the embedding can get with raw. Right? You can't. The hierarchy can't go any further. So you can't do like a sub level inside of another sub level inside of here or anything. With auto, you can get some deeper embedding. I'm hoping my query will result in that. Let's see. So we did get a little bit deeper embedding. Notice we have the employee and employee, and then we've got the employee name, and then we've got the position, right? And then inside the position, we have position name driver, and then inside the employee position, we have their pay rate. So there's a little bit deeper hierarchy. And if you did a deeper, more joins, you could get even deeper hierarchies. So auto allows you to do that, to get deeper hierarchies with joins and things like that, to let you see like subgroupings of things. Does that make sense? Yes, no, kind of.
Try to see the difference. Is this between this and
The raw.
the
So we've got like, notice the other employee just had like these three fields.
right,
So this employee, we've got a subgroup called position.
right.
And then we've got in the position name comes into the subgroup position. And then we have another subgroup called employee position.
So you can able to stop the employee position, not show you employee hours pay rate at the auto. Is that the difference?
Yeah, well,
How far
yeah.
you go?
I think actually what would have happened is that it wouldn't have these groups.
Okay.
It would have all been on the same level with raw.
I think I understand.
I mean, basically what you're getting is a slightly deeper hierarchy in subgroups.
But it's based off of our query.
Yeah, it's based
not
on the,
off of the table layout
yeah, it's based on the queries and how they relate to each other.
and the joins. That's
Right, yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And this could be a useful layout when you have a lot of sub things about any particular, outer one. So I think that's all I really want to show you about turning relational data into XML. It's fairly easy to do. And again, if I didn't add elements, it would have done all of this as attributes. And without a root, it would have, which is, as I said, sometimes you're putting it into an existing document. So then we're going to go to the XQuery part. I usually do this part that I just did first. I forgot because we got involved in the schema and all of that. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to try to do some XQuery on the maintenance detail things that we've done. And I'm not going to do it very extensively. XQuery is an XML specification. It is huge. It's basically a complete query language for XML. And SQL Server incorporates it, the whole query, XQuery. So not only do you have SQL, you have XQuery. Right? So, but you do it in the context of a SQL. So I'm going to do select. So let's do, I'm going to do in maintenance detail. That's not what I wanted. I want the columns. So I'm not really that concerned about the key. I'll leave the maintenance key, the employee key, the bus service key. So maintenance notes, to query that, I want to do .query. And then start a parentheses. And I need to specify the namespace. I'm going to real quickly check something. I don't do XQuery very much. So I'm going to do oops. So you can see that I've done this before. Right, so this is what I was trying to remember, declare namespace. So let's go back here. I believe I have to do it in quotes. Declare namespace equal, and then HTTP : let's break that line. Metro, did I do www in front of it?
Yes, you did.
www.metroalt.com, meeting notes. And then I believe, and again, I hope that I did, let's look.
I think you want maintenance notes, not the names.
Yes, I did. And was it low, camel case, or was it single, all lower?
Lowercase m, uppercase n.
Okay. Now I'm trying to remember if I closed the quote there. So let's look again. Oh, I do have single quotes, double quotes around that. Okay, that makes sense.
You don't use a backslash?
What?
Are you using the right slashes?
Oh, probably not. Unless I did that in the other one.
You're
No.
forward slashes.
Okay. Okay, then a semicolon. And then what we do is the actual query. which is, and I don't know if it'll allow me to break this where I'm breaking it.
Do you mean the from?
Yes, eventually.
Okay.
So what I need to do is go, so the root was maintenance notes, and then it was comments. And I'm going to put a little asterisk there, and I'm not going to guarantee that this works. As from maintenance detail. So the theory is I define the namespace because otherwise it doesn't know what the elements are. And I'm saying move from the root to comments and then list all the comments. If that works. And I'm not promising that it will. Now, what is it not like about this? Can I find either the column? Did I spell it differently? No, I drug that in. That should be fine.
I'm not getting any.
So there may not be the equal sign it doesn't like. Should do that though. Why does it not like equal? Oh, I need to give it a namespace. I need to give it a, let's call it mn. I need to give it an alias. And then I need to do mn colon, mn colon. So this mn is short for this. It's an alias. In .NET, when we're doing that, the ASP colon is a namespace alias. So that worked. And when I look at this, I've only got the comments, right? So let's go back. Now this part here is called XPath, and it's basically you just trace a path to where the what you want. Now you can, I'm not sure I'm going to do this, but you could not only just pull up the comments, you could pull up comments with particular words in them if you want, right? So you can put a criteria on the comment that will pull up a particular value. So right now I'm just pulling up the comments.
We have to encapsulate that in anything for search for it, we just put like a list of words.
No, it has to be, and what I need to remember is there's a term for it. So there's a part of the path here is you'd have to give the value.
Keyword, colon,
Yeah.
or something like that.
And I'm trying to remember what it is. As I said, I haven't, the last time I did X query was the last time I taught this class, which was a year ago. That being said, it could be really useful to know.
Percentage.
It might be. I don't know that I did any here. Let me see if I found any. I think I just looked for values. So if I did, I don't know, that probably is too vague. Introduction X query SQL Server, but I just wanted to see an example overview of X query. Oh, yeah, something like child belongs to the namespace, address type home. So this would say that you're trying to pull out all of the ones that have the home addresses. I mean, it gets a little bit weird, so.
Yeah. I can see the alias with that there, the address.
Right, and the value that you're searching for is usually in square brackets. The dot is a shortcut. There's a longhand version of this and a shorthand version. This is the longhand version with the double slashes. Double slashes means parent or child. Okay. And you're basically what you think it's called XPath because you're basically moving through the path of nodes until you locate what it is you're looking for. The other thing, and this is a problem with XML in general, it's really good for a lot of things, but part of the specification, this is true of HTML too, is that you have to load the whole document in order to be able to process it because you don't have a DOM if you don't know the route from the beginning to the end. So XML works really well except when you have gigantic documents because you have to load top to bottom in order to process it. So if you have really huge documents, that could be a problem in terms of performance and
You need a lot of memory is what you're saying.
yeah. And when they wrote the XML specifications, one of the things they said is they didn't care.
Might you have joined,
That's just how I had it.
What's the email?
That's, so you have to give the alias. So you pay the alias.
Oh, this doesn't. This has to be the key. I think that's
Yeah.
It's not.
Yeah, so you did it.
Just do it all right now.
I literally just copied that.
yeah.
There's no element name. And I copied this.
Well, so when you did it in your document, that's okay.
Yeah.
I literally just copied.
Yeah.
Right. So it doesn't-
Just got annoying after a while. Really? Yeah. You don't know, so. I had an eyebrow ring, I didn't use, but once I took it out, man, just comfortable, like. Yeah.
When you look at mine.
A lot of metal. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm lower than
So that's the first basically what we just got.
that. Yeah, I like it a lot.
Understand the library right there.
Yeah. Then you think sometimes, I mean, the Seattle Ballard.
Oh, yeah, but I
It's
tried
like,
it. That's
you
the
can
way it's
library
spelled
out there,
over.
like,
Oh.
It is up there. It's
Yeah,
probably-
because I'm gonna work Queen Anne, I'd rather than this shots.
This is, it's how it's spelled right here.
Right, but that
No, we
doesn't,
gotta-
this one is that one.
Relatively.
Oh,
yeah.
So we're on low income. And it's, $1,400 a month for the last year, like $100 and $25 utilities. Labor, oh wait,
Oh, so
so
It's not for totally low income, it's that break between low income and
yeah.
high income. Because I remember when I first moved here, my job was making more money than.
It was weird because it's hard to, a lot of places don't advertise
yeah,
it.
but that's because it's, that's.
Basically, they're subsidized from all these really tall clubs. It's like for every floor, they have like these like skyscrapers and these high luxury buildings. They have it's kind of not like those in that are and yeah, it's not advertised, but my buddy told me about it, and this leaves got on wait list. I mean, my girlfriend has a beautiful like one bedroom. It's just $535. But you can't beat that.
I understand.
Yeah.
By the mission box away, yeah.
Oh.
It's a hard spot. I love that area. It's just,
I've been beaten down to not survival. But that's kind of weird. Still never been. I've never been.
yeah.
So, no pressure.
I mean,
Yeah, and I have that, and I have that.
Yeah, that's like one of the reasons why, like, every time I'm like, really like Times Square, and some of the things that like,
And they're shooting all the time.
yeah.
Yeah, and,
Yeah,
I
it's
mean,
not,
relatively.
well, not only that,
Not quite like South.
Yeah.
Square is localized, it's kind of what it works. Because like, when you're talking about
Should I
just
run those again?
Right, well, 3 blocks, but then it was.
Yeah.
Right on the edge of the now, so, and it goes like 2 blocks further south, and then start the block.
Yeah, I know. So there's exactly
James and third.
yeah, that's right. That's in it.
Yeah, you just go one block here, and that's pretty good. If you like.
How your neighbors.
They're all.
so, humans, but.
Yeah, it's
weird.
I like that. Not the same.
Yeah. So that's
It didn't work. Just keep it strong.
I don't shit.
You know, if anything,
He says,
Yeah.
I know. Most things.
Not just here.
no, I mean, yeah, I mean, it gives us.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh, it's one of those situations.
Yeah, it's hard to actually.
Okay. Yeah, there's one of those on Capitol Hill.
There's actually.
Like this.
Well, I used to live next to one, so it was kind of the same. It was, I used to live
Neighbors.
it's called the Balfour. It's right across. It's on Stewart and Minor.
Okay, I know that.
So there's like a recovery house that's like it's built like the wall of the shared wall. So two separate buildings. And, yeah, they were doing that. They were rationing out things, experiment to see like repeat offenders. First of all, kill themselves, but also see like occasions at certain times as long as they did certain things, getting chores. went shopping for Silly.
So I
It's like they wouldn't have to panhandle.
think I got it.
Well, they still get it.
Yeah, this is different.
But I haven't had that in a while, and I don't.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep, it's a quick start. And then it goes around. Yeah, I guess, and then, yeah, and then it goes around. Leave and double line. I did ask that.
So that's what I was thinking.
No, I did a long
Yeah.
time ago.
Yeah, no.
Oh, so
Yeah, you have the newer one. I think. Yeah, I'm not gonna care. Yeah, I think, so when I went in, I looked, there were two versions, and I just went with the one that he put down. Okay. But the class, but there was a newer one, I think it's got the newest. Yeah. You've got the third, yeah, I think mine is the, I think mine's like the one before that, which is what he had listed, so I got that.
See, I just ordered the title.
Because there wasn't anything, it
So the
wasn't.
title's the same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It took me a while to figure
I
out.
noticed it's one of our classes.
So I will post the script and I will post the video, and this is our assignment together for that.
So you had a semi.
Oh, yeah.
Trying to access the parent directory. So officially.
That's kind of my life is actually.
Oh, really?
Otherwise, well, then it
You were like down, you were tech down there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was tech here. And then I got.
Oh, so you're here first?
And
Yeah, I got here.
You did that.
And I did this. Okay, well, I did this.
I might look at you this again, but I do nothing. There's got to be like a character on somewhere that I don't know.
Can I see a question?
Sure. Sure. No, I just want to kill the video here.
Yeah, I'll let you.
And I bet you had good thing going for that, before that. For Charles.
Which wasn't the highest paying job I had, but it was secure. And the